Hello, everyone, and welcome to Real Estate Right Now, where we talk about real estate matters that matter to you. You know what? We're live right here from Linda Craft Team Studios in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's part of the Research Triangle Park. And today's show is going to be kind of one of those fun shows that we have never done with Kirk Warner. He is a brand new agent here with Linda Craft Team Realtors. He's actually a expert specialist here at Linda Craft Team Studios. And we thought, there's a lot of people who always ask, what's it like getting into real estate, and what's it like joining a new team, and what do I need to know, because it can be kind of scary doing all those type of things. And so I asked Kirk. I said, "Hey, Kirk, would you like to talk about your experience?" And he said, "Okay, I'll do that." So we're going to talk to Kirk Warner. So Kirk, welcome to the show for the first time.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay. So how long have you had your real estate license?
I got my real estate license in May.
Okay, in May. So
of last year.
Last year.
Yes.
Okay, of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you were with another firm, and then you recently joined our firm. And,
briefly, yes.
Yeah, and so when did you come on to Linda Craft Team?
Officially on December 1st.
On December 1st, you came on. Okay, so you're really new. So let's talk about
super fresh.
Super fresh.
Super fresh.
So let's talk about what that experience is like coming to a new team. What were some of the emotions going through your mind as you said, okay, I'm going to make this switch, I'm going to go to a new team?
Mm-hmm.
What was going on emotionally?
I think mostly fear that I was going to join a team that I had been looking for a team to join about a few months before that. It was a process of elimination, but having been from Raleigh, being born here, I'd heard a lot about Linda and had seen a lot of Linda Craft's face, the marketing strategies that have been implemented by this company for years,
right?
Since I was born and before then, have left a big impact on me. I was looking for a boutique firm. I call it boutique, less than a dozen people. And so that was really what my main criteria for joining was the size.
Okay. Why was that so important to you?
Because I feel people work best in this sort of business by working with people that have been selective in terms of selecting who their team, what their team is constituting.
Okay. Yeah.
So integrity, hard work, and kindness. So a family atmosphere was really what I was after.
Yeah. Very cool. And have you got that?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Okay. So
150%.
All right. So let's talk about when you join a new team, what are some of the, first things that they lay on you? Because because things are so different. What's some of the first things that happen when you join a new team that you can explain to the audience?
Well, I mean, the first thing that one is getting to know the people that you're working with, and that can be difficult if you're not in a small team. So first off, being open to other people's personalities. And I think one of our team members, Kim Crump, said, we're all different, and we all respect and appreciate how we're all different. And that was one of the things that really just hooked me right up. I was like, I like that very much.
Yeah.
So respecting other people's differences was primary, and secondarily, the way in which our goals as people here, our mentality with interacting with the public, I think is extremely noble, and like I said before, integrity,
right,
and hard work, and there are several others. I think perseverance is another one we have.
Yeah. Okay. So what were some of the first things that you learned? Would they take you through first after you get through the people part?
Yeah.
What's some of the structural things or process things that they have you go through?
So I think the systems that we have in place have been extremely complicated and sophisticated systems, such as our CRM, the ways in which that we engage with clients, the way that we actually get in touch with people to do business with. Learning that has been a high learning curve. And I'm still doing that work. And thankfully, I have mentorship with people in this company that have made that possible for me to excel to do good work.
Let's talk about the mentorship
Mhm.
process. Let's talk about what that entails, like in terms of a mentor that you have.
Mhm.
Who's your mentor?
Steve Kruger
Okay, and
and Tony Fink.
how is that mentoring process? How does that work for you?
So, I mean, it depends. I think it's extremely important when you're starting out to shadow, to show up at the office as much as you possibly can,
Mhm.
just to so I always analogize it to being like a sponge, just as much as possible, be present, and watch and look and learn from people. Steve has taught me a bunch about scripts, what to say. We are doing sales in a probably 80% is sales. So I think knowing exactly what to say and when to say it. There are so many opportunities for error in this job,
Mm,
in this field. So it's really great to have people that have had experience guiding you as you're learning. So scripts is definitely one of them. Um, and I think another one is just I think knowing precisely when to call, when to interact, because most people are busy, during, like, hours, like, they get up probably around 7, 6 o'clock. They're commuting into their job, and then they get there at, like, 9, and then there's, like, this hour, like, 9 to 10 to 10:30 where they're looking at their emails, they're checking their, social media, and that's a great time to get in touch with them. And the same as around, when the day's rounding out, like around 4 o'clock, 5. So just knowing the opportune times to get in touch with people. And it's all by experience and process of, you know, e- elimination and error. I mean, there's nothing to be said that for experience. There's everything to be said for experience.
right. So you used to see that you said Steve is your main mentor, but then you also mentioned Tony.
Yes.
So what has he brought to the table for you in terms of you're smiling. What does he do in his mentorship part with you?
I mean, it's a myriad of things. I think attitude is one thing that that Tony has given me. Tony is extremely focused
Mm,
in what he does, very disciplined. So he's one to tell me all about time frames. The opportunity window for getting in touch with someone who's gotten in touch with you is less than 7 minutes. So if you let that 7 minute window pass you by, you might as well just say goodbye to that client.
wow. Well, so overall, the mentoring experience has been a great experience for you,
Phenomenal. And I just mentioned two, but there have been many others.
right? So you feel like the whole team is kind of held along in terms of like little things you can ask them questions along the way.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
okay, what has been for you? You talked about the CRM, of course, has been a big challenge for
Mhm,
you because, and it is for everybody because
mhm.
it's technological and it's got a lot of moving parts in it,
Yes,
right?
big, lots of moving parts.
In it. So, what are some of the other challenges you experience coming onto a new team as well that you go, okay, well, this has been kind of a little bit of a challenge,
I mean, like I said, yeah, everything is all the time. There's a certain velocity that we require here. That is, it can be intense at times. I mean, I think other people at other companies and perhaps in less populous places in the state will probably be like, "Wow, that seems really intense." But I'm there for it. I want to be challenged. I think if I wanted to have an easy job, I would be, doing something else. I
right?
don't want anything. I don't want to do something easy. I want to do something invigorating. I want to do
Right.
something that's challenging. And I think I found the perfect place to do it.
So, what's been the most fun?
I think the most fun is, like, we have a lot of social engagements with one another. I was just out with a couple of our other colleagues for dinner the night before last, and it was just so enjoyable. Just getting to know people on a personal level, because this is such a deeply social profession.
Right.
And we had our team advance meeting, a year in review, last week, and the year ahead. And I think it's very important that we've set goals and we share those goals with each other, and keeping each other accountable for those goals excites me, because you're not out there by yourself trying to meet these goals. You need to do goal setting, but you also need to have people there that are making other goals as well and keeping each other accountable for them.
So, you brought up the word accountability, and
Mhm.
a lot of people stay clear of accountability.
No,
But
I
that
don't know why.
yeah, but you seem to embrace it as being an important part for you in terms of your success.
Mhm. I do.
And
I believe that successful people, being surrounded by them, make successful people. We just it just is that feedback loop, the
mhm.
synergy.
So how do you see accountability working for you in terms of now you've put out your goals out there? How do you
Mhm.
see the accountability part working for you?
I think the accountability part really depends on how much you're willing to take people's advice and listen to them.
Mm,
Again, I think it's about still showing up at the office even though you're not available, you're not on opportunity time as we call it, or you're not having meetings that would require you to be in the office and yet you still are there looking and listening to
okay.
what people are doing. Because
Let
I'm so brand new,
right, 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 right.
so much to learn.
Yeah, so which brings me to training,
Mhm.
right? Because there's ongoing training all the time.
Right.
Talk about some of the training that you participated in, because there's group training.
Mhm.
There's not just individual mentoring.
No, that's correct.
There's group training. So talk about some of the group training things.
I think some of the training is it consisted of, social media posts and, the velocity by which you should do social media posts and what to do it about, programs that you can actually use to, well, I mean, I think also just like reading the Wall Street Journal, having these like at hand, these like, this data that you can present to the public, which they may not know about.
Mm.
So part of that training has consisted of, our group emails, being about, pertinent data that affects our metropolis here.
Are you a social media user?
I do use social media, yeah. I mean, I've just joined TikTok last night, so doing my best.
So yeah, I know you've put out some videos. They've
Mhm.
been great,
Yeah, no,
right?
man, I'm trying.
Yeah, right. They've been great, right? How has that experience in terms of like using now your real estate
Mhm.
profession in social media? How is that transition? Because I think it's easy, right? Because I do a lot of social medias,
Yes, no, very
and
much.
so there's this balance between the personal and the professional,
Mhm,
and making that work. I, the personal stuff's easy.
mhm,
I think it's hard to do the business stuff, right?
mhm. To
How do
make it interesting and
right?
to make it, palatable to people, it's difficult.
So what's your approach?
So, I mean, I'm still trying to figure this out, and I think one of the things it's trying to segregate a little bit, the more fun and personal stuff from the professional. So I'm using LinkedIn for, the hard data stuff,
Right.
and some of it for Facebook. But predominantly, I use we do have like a sort of a ghost in our office. I did post that on Facebook and Instagram. But you just have to feel it out.
Right.
And I think it's just it very much it's this work is about feel.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm still working at like learning and working on that.
Yeah, so a lot of this, isn't it? I think for you, maybe, and maybe I'm wrong, but even with social media, it's a lot of experimentation, right?
Yes.
You don't know what necessarily works yet, so you have to keep trying something,
Yes.
right?
And you can see if it's not getting any traction, and then you have this impulse to take it down when you think that no one's looking at it or no one's said anything. So like I'm gonna take this down, but I think that impulse is wrong, especially if you just posted it in the last. I think we have this immediate. We have this tendency to think, oh goodness, like after an hour or two of it not getting any likes, we're gonna take it down
Right.
because it wasn't a success. But I think that impulse is wrong. And if I had any advice for anybody out there that were doing social media posts to leave them up longer than you'd prefer,
Right.
just step away.
Yeah, I think you kinda do have to kind of step away from it and let it kinda take a life of its own
Mhm.
a little bit, because, it may not be something that resonates immediately, right?
Right.
But you don't know who it may resonate with.
Right.
And if that one person happens to see it and go, "Oh, Kirk Warner.
Mhm.
Oh, that's pretty actually really good. Let
Yes.
me give him a call." Right? You don't know when that can occur, because the beautiful thing about social media is it's up there forever
Yeah.
until you take it down,
Mhm.
right, and delete it. So, and I think that's probably true of even like learning about this business, isn't it? That you kind of have to experiment with your own style,
Mhm.
right?
You have to create your own style, your own way of articulating things because we all have a different way of doing it.
Right. Yeah, because even though you have these mentors,
Mhm.
right, you can't do it their way.
No.
right? I mean,
Don't want to.
right. So how do you find your authenticity? What have you been doing to try to find your authenticity as you've been learning and growing and starting here with the team?
I think I've been looking at them. I've been looking at them and, my teammates, been looking at them. I've also been looking, like, inward, what would I wanna hear if I were about to purchase a house, if I
Yeah.
were moving from California to here? Like, what would I wanna hear, to encourage me to purchase a house, uh, in this economy, in this area, having never even been here perhaps? Um, so I'm thinking about their mentality mostly, 'cause I was in California for a while, and I moved here from California, and I think a lot of people there's a mass migration going on.
Mhm.
Credit Karma and Google and Apple are all building offices here, and we have a lot of influx and immigration. So it's about trying to put myself in their shoes.
Mm. Yeah, the empathy part
Mhm,
is a part that I think we neglect often that, for agents or, brokers, I guess we have to call them brokers now, but is that there's this empathy thing that goes on. It's not just about numbers,
mhm,
right? Because at the end of the day, it's people,
mhm.
right?
Well, I think it can be. I mean, it has to be about numbers because we want to give them the best home at the
Sure,
best price.
right, sure.
But, the empathetic intelligence is something that I privilege highly. I think, at the end of the day, and as I've said this before, we're working with people, and we have to be extremely cognizant of how they are doing. And also, a lot of our business can constitute people that are going through major life challenges, like a job change,
Right,
a divorce, a death. So we
right.
have to be empathetic creatures.
Yeah, I agree with you. You come from a whole different world because your doctorate is in English from Yale,
Yeah.
right? So this is also a bit of a transition for you as well.
It's a pivot. It's a bit of a pivot, yeah.
So it's not like you were in a field like you're working on your MBA. No, you got your doctorate in English. So how do you apply your what you've studied for? How does that apply back into coming into a real estate company?
I think it's really actually it's not as much of a stretch as most people would think it would be. I mean, you have to write a bunch about what you're offering. You have
Mhm,
to be very good at communications. I actually think my PhD in English was mostly about communications,
mm,
because that is, I mean, the written word, also what we speak. Um, has much to do with our business. So I
mm.
didn't think it was that big of a challenge to transition.
I think it's interesting because Tony's an English major.
Yeah, I know.
Right, and I thought immediately, I was, like, going, "Oh my gosh, I can't imagine the verbiage that comes between the 2 of you
Mhm.
at any given
No.
at any given time." There's gotta be a ton of verbiage
Yeah,
that happens because you're both very verbal and, both well,
exceedingly verbal.
yeah, and well-educated. But I think that plays a really significant role
Mhm,
in being able to be a professional in this industry,
mhm.
don't you think?
No, absolutely, 100%. I think if you can't speak, to people, you're not gonna succeed in this business.
So, what are some other things that you have found in this process of transition into a new team
Mhm,
that stand out to you that you go, "Oh yeah, these are some things that maybe you ought to think about if you're a newer, type of agent or you're thinking about making a change. What are some things that you've experienced here, other things that you've experienced here
mhm,
that you go, yeah, this was pretty helpful to me over the course of
mhm.
time."
I mean, in terms of what's been most helpful, I think really just putting in the time to actually communicate with people. I mean, it's all about, I don't know what your hours are in terms of getting up in the morning and
Early.
how early.
Yeah.
And I was asking Tony in particular about, when do you prefer to put in the time to do all of these, social interactions and garnering business. And it's like, I like to sleep around 10 to 12 hours a night.
Right, right, right.
So, like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to be, and then in terms of, like, people coming from the West Coast, you have to stay up a little bit later in
Yeah.
order to deal with them in texts and email and
Yeah.
things like that. So, it's been an adjustment for me in terms of, how far and wide I wish to stay up late and get up how early.
Right.
because we have international clients, we have, nationwide clients.
Right.
So it's very important for me to get my own circadian rhythm going, and acclimating to this team.
And so how's that been going, the changing that rhythm for you?
I mean, I've been trying to, we wake up in the morning. It's very cold here right now. So waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym and defrosting my windshield is not exactly the best look. It's dark out. I'm like, what am I doing right
Right,
now?
right, right, right.
But yeah, I think also just everyone on our team seems to be extremely health conscious.
Right.
We all work out. We all we all prize, being fit. And that's another thing that I see that other people doing that I don't want to, have fall by the wayside, because if you're not healthy, you're not going to be good at your job.
Right, it's really true, right? And then, of course, Linda, who's had this company for 38 plus years,
Mhm.
she has a personal trainer still,
Yes. I
right?
know. She was working out, like, I think she still works out 3 to
Yeah,
4 days
yeah,
a week
yeah, yeah,
with a
with
personal
with a
trainer.
personal trainer, in
Yes.
addition to what she does on her own,
Yes.
right? I mean, and I think, it's been such an important part of it's really something that we don't really talk about,
Mhm.
but it really is an important part of being here,
Mhm.
is we want you to take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually,
Mhm.
right?
And if that weren't the case, I wouldn't be here, because
Right,
I don't wanna work with zombies.
right.
I don't wanna work with people that don't take care of themselves.
Right. Yeah, and the physical part is important because this is, whether people want to realize it or not, it is a little bit physically demanding.
No, it's more than physically demanding. We're driving all the time. We're engaging with people all the time on multiple platforms. It can get overwhelming, and you just have to make sure that you are taking the necessary steps to make sure that you're your best at your best.
Right. And then the mental part,
Mhm.
it's really mentally exhausting,
Mhm.
right? Because you're having to think about so many things,
Mhm.
as take a buyer in your car or whatever you do, right?
Right.
There's a lot of things going on. And then it's the emotional exhaustion
Mhm.
at the end of the day.
And buyers can be extremely difficult. They
Yeah.
can be extremely, taxing on your, emotions, and just being able to really just, as you're dealing with them, take a step back and just say, "Okay, I understand what they need. I will provide that with it for them in a way that's good for me, but good for them as well."
Right. And that emotional piece of it is so important, isn't it?
No, it's great. It's essential.
Right? It's, we talked about the empathy part, but being emotionally connected to your client,
Mhm.
right, becomes so important.
And I think there's a dearth of that with, like, other companies that I'd been interviewing with. I kind of felt like it was a little bit too sharky.
Right.
I kept analogizing it to being like in a Shark Tank.
Right.
And real estate can be really a cutty like that, to use
Right.
a Bay Area expression.
But it's not, you've not, that's not been your experience here.
Absolutely not. But I think we're as competitive as everybody else, but we don't choose to have that mentality.
Right. And that's it. And for you, that was something that was really important coming
Right.
in.
No, 100%.
Right.
Because, I mean, I got my PhD in Yale, and, living in that kind of environment and working in that environment was not exactly the most healthy. And then I started a tech company in San Francisco, and that was very, the same way. It's not I don't expect work to be easy. I don't expect it to be, unhealthy.
Mm, mm. Yeah. And so that unhealthy, see, that's a beautiful statement that you're making there, that you don't expect it to be unhealthy. You expect it to be busy. You expect it to be challenging.
Mhm,
You expect it to work hard,
mhm.
but you don't expect it to be unhealthy.
Right. And I think going back to what we were talking about social media, with not getting enough followers or likes or things like that, and taking it down too soon, or just being too hard on yourself. I think, in this, we have these January, February, winter months are particularly slow. And there's a tendency to just really get, bogged down by that. And I worry that, there's a cynicism and a sort of defeatist mentality that can come through if you're not making a deal every week, and you just have to really just push through and wait until it gets spring or summer,
Right.
and then it's going to pick up. But you have to have a sort of faith.
Right. And right. It does require faith, doesn't it? Right. You
Yes.
could do all the work, but at the end of it all, there's still a faith, that you got to trust.
Right.
You have to have faith in the process, right?
Hmm.
Because the scoreboard may not tell what's actually happening on right away.
Right. And you're not going to get immediate gratification. I think we're just so, and especially, I hate making generalizations about millennials or things like that, but I mean, or my generation seems to be very keen on immediate gratification, and it's just not. You just can't expect that.
That's interesting. All right. So when you're right now, right, you're probably in the midst of prospecting
Hmm.
and right and trying to get some clients on board,
Hmm.
right? What are some of the things that you've learned to do, joining the team in terms of, you know, trying to get those prospects in the tank and trying to help
Hmm.
find those. What are you doing right now?
So I'm using a instead of using just strictly text-based material, I've been trying to send them video messages via email and text,
Mm.
which is through BombBomb.
Great.
Um,
By the way, I interviewed the authors.
oh, you did?
I did of
That's
Mama.
right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, great. Yeah.
It's a fantastic software. I'm utilizing that. There's another. It's called BigVoo. It's a
Yep.
script. It's a script thing where you basically. I think they call it in the UK an auto cue, but I mean, you just can type up a script, have it on the side of your iPhone, and then just read it. So you're not looking down. You're looking at the camera, looking at the person. It's very helpful in making a connection.
So you're using technology to do a large part of your
Yes.
prospecting then,
Yes.
right? Now, are you doing some of the old-fashioned things too, or no, so much?
Well, I'm still doing email and I'm still doing text and what are the other old? I mean, I'm not mailing. I mean, I was mailing out, by post. I would be
Right.
farming different neighborhoods and sending out, letters. But I'm doing less of that.
Okay.
But still, I think that can still be effective.
Good for you. We've done it.
Yeah, no, you've done everything.
No, I haven't. You've been great. Tell people how they can get a hold of you so that if they want to talk to you about real estate and maybe
Mhm.
purchasing a home here, how can they get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me via my cell phone number, which I don't know if I want to
Yeah, yeah,
provide.
yeah.
It's 919-622-5640. You can follow me on Facebook. It's just my name, Kirk Warner. My Instagram is a little bit more personal, but it's
Right.
it's S Kirk Warner is my tag.
How about an email address?
It's Kirk@lindacraft.com.
Yeah, that's awesome. You've been amazing.
Yeah, it's been a lovely
This
time.
this
Thank
has
you
been
for
a great time.
inviting
Yeah,
me.
no, thanks for doing this. This has been a lot of fun. Folks, this is the show. You know what? You had a lot of choices. You chose us. Thank you so much for doing that. You know what I say to you every week, everywhere, all over the world? You know what? Tell your friends that Will Your Real Estate Right Now is a show that is for everyone. And we would invite you to do that. So, as I say to you all over the world, everywhere, ciao, everybody.